Hey gang, it's Deltius from DeltiusGaming.com here with my new character. Look at this little man. CPOP. Yeah, he works out. What? He's been doing the P90 DG. Yes? No, that's not copyrighted. Anyways, this video, I want to come out with some Champion Point tips. Whether you're any role in the game, any class, basically some tips for you as we've learned more about the champion system. People are starting to get to veteran ranks and wondering what to do with these suckers. And I run into a lot of people that really don't know how to spend them effectively. So you're going to want to watch this video. If you want to learn about champion points, where to spend them regardless of what role or class. So before I get to that, I'm going to explain champion points in 1 minute or less. Yes, I know I'm long-winded, but let's see if I can do it. Champion points are essentially points that you earn beyond veteran rank 1. 400,000 experience, you get a champion point. What you have is 9 constellations, 3 colors, green, blue, red. Essentially the red is kind of defensive, green is resource management, blue is offensive. Every champion point you get, it goes from green, blue to red, kind of clockwise, counterclockwise. If you go in these trees, you start using champion points to increase specific things that you can do for your character. It's account wide. So if you earn champion points on your VR14 and on your VR2, they apply to both characters. The more champion points you have, the more you spend in one thing, you do accrue diminishing returns. And then also you get access to powerful passives the more champion points you put in here. There's a lot to it, but essentially no, champion points are alternate advancement system for your account that allows you to get more powerful over time. We did it under a minute! Yeah! We're on to the DragonKnight class, and a couple things that I want everyone as DragonKnights to know are really in the blue and red trees. If you go over here to the Apprentice, we're going to cover DPS later, but really DragonKnights excel at flame damage, and almost all of their damage comes from flame, not magic. So if you're a DragonKnight DPS, you really want to focus heavy into Elemental Expert. That's going to go a long way for you. Also, DragonKnights have some powerful self-heals, so why not increase Blessed a little bit as well, so you get more out of your self-healing. These two are really powerful to pump points into. You have spell critical, spell resistance, but if I were you and I was investing in the offensive DragonKnight, I'd go to Elemental Expert and Blessed here. If you go over, this is more of the weapons. You don't need the whole lot of that, but if you're a physical damage dealer, you're still going to want to hang out in here, especially Mighty. Moving on to the red tree, where I think the most important thing is for a DragonKnight is to block. Nothing better than block expertise. This thing goes all the way up to 25%. So if you're a block knight playing PvP, the sword and shield block knight, you really got to invest into this one. It's very, very good. Moving on over here, there's a couple other ones that I like to focus on. Elemental Defender reduces flame, frost, shock. Hardy is great. Another one that I like is Quick Recovery. Increases the effectiveness of healing received. That applies to your self-heals and to someone else healing you. So if you're a DragonKnight, want to be more sturdy, more tanky, look into Quick Recovery. And it goes all the way up to 15.8%. Now imagine having 15.8 here and then a bunch into Blessed. Your Green Dragon's blood or whatever blood you use will heal like a truck. Couple other things here. This is your typical magic and stamina reduce cost, magic and stamina regeneration. But another tip I like is tumbling. Reduces the cost of roll dodge and break free. So if you're a DragonKnight playing up front or you're doing PvE, you're going to be stunned. This will save you a lot of stamina and hopefully prevent you from getting killed. And even 15 points in here gives you 5.7%. That adds up. Those are my tips for the DragonKnight. Working on the NightBlade. NightBlade's a little bit different. If you're a magic-based NightBlade, it's pretty obvious that you want to get 30 points into this tree first to unlock spell precision. And then what do you do to pump up magic damage? Well, honestly, you go over here to the physical tree and pump up Thaumaturge. Yes, the physical damage tree is the main source of damage for a magical NightBlade, or magical anything really besides a DragonKnight. So if you're playing a magic NightBlade and want to pump up your damage, come over here. If you're playing a stamina-based NightBlade, you're going to want to pump up Mighty. These two are in this physical damage tree are pretty much where you're going to get main source of your damage. Right here, physical. Right here, magic. But make sure you're going after those 30-point passes here. So I usually pump up Elfborn, Spell, Erosion, and a little bit out of Blessed because you don't have a whole burst heal, but you do have some funnel, some sap. So even putting 10 points into Blessed will pump up your self-healing. Moving on to the red. So I don't play a block NightBlade, so this isn't very effective. Medium armor is pretty effective, but I don't like this tree too much for the NightBlade. What I do like is this. Unchained reduces the stamina cost of abilities by 80%. 3 seconds after breaking stun, knockdown, fear, disorient, or stagger. So if you're playing a stamina or a magic NightBlade and you get CC'd a lot and you don't want to die all the time, think about getting this 120 point passes. This is also an awesome PvP tree because you have spell absorption. If you get hit really hard, you get a lot of flood of magic. You got health when you get critically attacked or when you critically strike a target. Plus Unchained, making this as a strong PvP based tree. So I like to split my points into here, kind of 3 evenly. Reduce damage from damage over time effects, not so important because as a NightBlade, guess what? You can cloak. Dark Cloak is going to take those off. So I like to go heavy into Elemental Expert, Hardy, and then some into Light Armor, but even if you put 100 points in Light Armor, you're only getting 13% out of it. So the 2, Hardy and Elemental Defender, are really handy. And of course, this is a good source of protection for the NightBlade, is increased healing received. Now the Bastion does work on some of your wards, so if you're going to play a magic-based NightBlade and you want to use wards a lot to protect yourself, Bastion would be very good. In fact, Sorks go here all the time. Increases the effectiveness of healing potions by X percentage. If you're going Argonian NightBlade playing mainly potions, you could go here, though not so much of a factor. So defensively, want to focus here if you can, or medium armor you can. Spell Shield is actually really effective. I play a Breton and I get 3,000 spell resistance, and pumping points into this gives me a massive amount because spell resistance right now is almost as important as elemental resistance, if not more. So focus on that if you're a magic-based NightBlade. Moving on. Now here's some interesting tips I'm going to give you about stamina recovery and magic recovery. If you go over here in the middle tree, you have the recovery. If you go over here, you have reduced cost. Now there's only one race in the game that has reduced cost for magic, Breton. And there's a couple races that have increased magic recovery and increased stamina recovery. So Bosmer is the best stamina recovery one, and High Elf. The interesting point here is that it stacks more than it should. So if you have a 10% passive and you put more points into Arcanus, you're going to get a ton of recovery on that 10% if you're a High Elf. Same thing if you're a Bosmer. You get 20 points in here, 8.1 on top of your 21%. Let's say you're a NightBlade, guess what? There's 30 more percent. Say you're a werewolf, guess what? There's 15 more percent. So if you're really going for a high regeneration NightBlade build, think about putting more points into here. But typically what I do is split my points between stamina or magic or whatever my build I'm playing. So let's say I'm playing stamina, I'll put, let's say, 20 over here and 20 over here. And that's kind of how I split my points. But if you have more stamina recovery due to your race, think about putting more points into the recovery. It's going to go a long way for you. Last tip, I've been talking a lot about NightBlades, but NightBlades are really effective at healing rejections via Deathstroke, or if you're Lethal Arrow Bow Sniper or something like that. So you can pump this up all the way to 33% on top of your abilities. So think about pumping that up if you want to be a sniper, reducing damage or healing received. It's powerful as a NightBlade. On to the old Sorky Porky here. So the Sork does not have a whole lot of healing besides Critical Surge or Power Surge. So Blessed isn't that important to us. What we want to pump up is Elfborn and Spell Erosion. A lot of our damage does not come from Elemental Expert. So if you're a magic-based Sork, guess where you're going to go? In the physical damage tree, once again. You'll see me pointing a lot to this because it really has an impact on your DPS, except DragonKnights. Physical damage, obviously right here. There are some interesting builds with high heavy attack Sorks channeling lightning staffs. That could be a little interesting, though I don't really go with that. Okay, so the no-brainer here with the Sork. There is one passive for the Sork, and it's this sucker, the Bastion. Increases the effect of damage absorbing effects by 24%. This is utterly amazing. Once you get 100 points into this, and you walk around shield stacking 3 shields as a Sork, it is very hard to kill you. So if you're trying to go for something defensive in the Sork, go 100 points in here. Trust me, almost nothing else is worth it. Let's say you do have more than 100 points though. I like the spell absorption passive, the 10 points, because if you get hit really hard, guess what? You can apply a ward or two to yourself. So it makes sense for me to go a couple in Hardy, a couple in an Elemental Defender to at least get that 10-point passive. And then you go into here. As a Sorc, your main protection is wards, not armor, not anything else. So going there is powerful. You can also go with spell resistance as well, and then even resistance to critical hits that you take. I don't play a Sorc tank, so I don't find that effective, and I don't find armor very effective as a Sorc. These two, Bastion, are your go-to. Moving on. Many Sorcs play Magic. There is a few Stamina Sorcs, but what I like to do is split my points evenly in Magic, reduce Magic costs. Let's say I have 100 points, and in reduce recovery. I like to do a mix of both, because having a lot of light armor is going to reduce that cost, getting a good amount of magic recovery, and even stacking an Atronach Mundus Stone is going to give you a huge boost. But let's say that you're a High Elf, and you don't want to use the Atronach Mundus Stone. You could go a little bit lower on magic recovery because of your natural bonus, and go high on reduced magic cost. So now you take a lot less to cast any spell, plus you have some ultimates that can get back magic and overload, really not relying so much on this one. And that's kind of how you play around with the champion point system to maximize your resource regeneration. As a Sorc, I don't dodge roll a whole lot, I don't do any of that, and I don't sneak in stamina stealth, I just zoom around. Really, it's about resource management, stacking your shields. I'm telling you right now, if you get 100 points into this, you will be awfully powerful. Moving on to the old Templar. Essentially, if you're a Templar and you want to play a healer, though you don't have to, you're going to go focus on the Blessed. When I put 100 points into this on my live server, because this is PTS, that's why I have 1200, I can heal like a truck. Essentially, I can heal for legitimately 20,000 on a Breath of Life. That is absolutely incredible. So think about putting points into here. If you're a pure healer, you want to do a lot of high spell critical damage or healing. You don't need a whole lot of spell resistance, and a lot of your damage does not come from Flame, Frost, or Shock. So pump up Blessed at a 3-to-1 rate and with the Elfborn. Getting that spell critical rating is very powerful, and then also the Arcane Well is awesome as well. Moving over, of course magic damage, of course physical damage, we know about that already. I do like the spell resistance. You do have a bonus as a Templar in your passives for spell resistance, so this is worthwhile to pump up. If you're a Templar tank, great as well. If you're a stamina user, I like this as well. The problem is investing in this tree doesn't yield high really rewards in comparison. So if you're running a pure Templar healer, look at what these are. Reduces damage received while rezzing. Absorbs almost 10,000 after rezzing another player. Increases magic recovery. And absorbs 1,200 damage for 15 seconds after drinking a potion. That's not so good, but look at all these rezzing passives. Especially a PvP rezzer with Alliance rank 10, this is a tree to invest into. Quick recovery is pretty obvious. Bastions, we don't use a whole lot of wards, but heavy armor, if you do the heavy armor Templar thing, this is something worthwhile to invest in. And then of course, over here, you have the good old Unchained. So Hardy and Elemental Defender are both worth investing in. Reduce the damage taken over damage over time. I don't like that because as a Templar I have a purge as well. So think about that. In terms of resource regeneration, what I do on my Templar is a little different. I don't need a whole lot of stamina recovery as a Templar. The reason why, I have Repentance, so I can zap bodies and get 3,000 stamina whenever I want. So that's not a whole issue. Same thing with magic or recovery. I don't need a whole lot of magic recovery because I have channel focus. I can lay it down, get tons and tons and tons of resources. So what I like to do is pump up these two, Magician and Warlord. Also what I like on my PvP Templar is to put a lot of points into Tumbling. That way I can't be CC'd, and if there is no bodies around, I don't have a potion up, it's not game breaking for me to break a CC. So a good combination is Tumbling here, and then going over to the good old Unchain. So reduce stamina cost for 3 seconds, 80%. Dodge roll, get out of there, break CC, live to fight another day. If you're killing stuff as a Templar, you're going to get corpses back. And so that's kind of what I see on the classes. Now, one last bit, I'm going to give you some general tips overall. Ultimately, there's no right or wrong way to spend your champion points. And as we learn more and more about the game and combinations with passes, race, drinks, food, etc., the game will evolve and change, and so too will these passives. So believe me, give me your feedback. What have you found useful? These are just some combinations that I found useful in the past gaming while I'm playing a bunch of different roles. But if you want to be like Mr. Sexy Man, do your best to experiment and try things on your own. Believe it or not, I'm always right. I'll be the first to admit that. Though these tips will help you if you need some good direction, looking into the champion points and start hitting veteran level. Thanks so much for watching. More videos to come.